All you hardcore boxing fans out there, how are you doing? Especially from Poker's Corner, biggest gob in sport. Today we're joined by Kent. Once he can press the right button. Here he is. Here's Kent. Women love him. Men want to be him. How are you doing, Kent?
How you doing, Russell? You keeping all right?
Fire away. What you on with?
Nothing really at the minute. Nothing really.
Yeah. What do you think to Sandy Ryan fight?
Well, that's what happens when you go to the stupid, towns that have no real boxing authority. That you have to expect that. They should have expected that when they went to that commission. To be quite honest, California isn't really a hotbed of boxing commissions, and what judges were they going to use? What level of judging, refereeing, what standard do they have over there? And that just says it all. So I think it's just one of them. I had Sandy Ram winning by three rounds.
Did you?
Yeah, but that's what happens when you bring your stable and you bring your fighters away to a jurisdiction that isn't really a boxing commission, and you have to expect that you should have expected something like that. It kind of backfired a bit on them.
Do you think that Clifton Mitchell and Sandy Ryan can feel a bit aggrieved?
Absolutely, because firstly, they weren't the priority there. That fight was not the priority. Eddie talked about it being great matchmaking and it was bold and so forth, but it wasn't really that clever when he took them to that commission in California, to a boxing commission that don't really have any credibility in boxing, especially now after the weekend. They would feel aggrieved because they had no momentum. They had no real. I don't know. They didn't really have any protection over there. As an away fighter, in a bad jurisdiction and a commission that has no credibility in boxing.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but it's like I've just said, like you mentioned, you're going out to another country. Clifton Mitchell, who's obviously manager of Sandy Ryan, he must have thought, well, we'll be all right here. It's an Eddie show in America. We'll if it's close, we'll get it, but we'll get the nod. But it weren't even a close fight, was it?
No way. I had Sandy Ryan comfortably winning by 3 or 4 rounds. For me, that's comfortable.
Yeah, I had a winning by 7 rounds.
Comfortable win, comfortable win, but that's what happens. Should have turned around and said, well, you know what, it's a good fight. We're getting into this. Have a young career, a young fighter. We're going with somebody that has fought at much higher level for much longer. We'll take it in England or we'll take it somewhere else. We'll take it in a more credible jurisdiction, and it backfired on them.
Backfired massively, didn't it?
Massively, but it's not the be all and end all. And you look at female boxing.
They can get a world title next week if they want one.
Yeah, because you've got the elite fighters at the top, and you've got no real middle ground. You've got elite pros. You've got elite fighters turning pro from amateur, and basically they could go into a world title in their first fight and probably win it. And that's not their fault. It's just there's absolutely no depth in women's boxing at the minute. And that's going to take years for that to happen.
It's going to
take a long time before there is the depth in the divisions where you're going to have to work your way into a title shot. You're going to have to go for eliminator. But with it the way it is now, it's not a massive, it is disappointing, but it's not going to really hurt Sandy Ryan's career. She could, as you say, fight for a world title next week, or probably get a world title shot and win. So I don't think it's going to be the be all and end all of Sandy Ryan. it's not really that much of a disaster.
Yeah, yeah. All right then. Back up to the weekend's action. Go straight in with Joyce and Zhang. What did you make of all that?
What did I make of it? I just think now that it's funny how the tide changes. It's funny how one loss, everyone's coming out now and hammering Joyce and hitting Joyce as if, yeah, retire. He shouldn't have been in the ring. Firstly, you look at his career. Joyce's career is how you would want any elite amateur's career to be. So you look at, he should have been Olympic champion. He should have. He was robbed in the Olympic final. Then he done WSB, done that for a couple of years, a year. He fought elite level fighters there. Then right away he was ready. You know, in his first fight, you know, he fought Ian Lewison, who had went the distance for the British title. You know, he fought for a British title. Then a lot of fights later, he's Commonwealth champion. You know, he's fighting really good opposition. So that's how you want to manage a career. And you look at his age when he turned pro, he was no spring chicken. So there was none of this fighting, you know, white collar guys or fighting bin men. He did it the right way. You know, he was British, Commonwealth, European champion. You know, he had that, you know, deal with Richard Schaffner. You know,
Yeah.
he turned over kind of with David Hay. You know, there was a lot of optimism on him, and I'm not gonna jump in the bandwagon like everybody else and come out and slate him, because that's how a career should be if you're an elite amateur. You know, you look at Fraser Clark after 7 or 8 fights, and you look at Joyce's career after 7 or 8 fights. They're an absolute million miles away. And
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is, he hasn't ducked anyone. He hasn't hid from anyone. He's went on as an away fighter, at the start with Frank Warren, and absolutely destroyed Daniel Dubois. Like, absolutely destroyed him. So that was only a couple of years ago. So it's not like the end of the world for him. He fought an absolute monster of a fighter in Zhang, a monster of a fighter. And I'll ask you a question, Russell. So from Tyson Fury to Anthony Joshua, see that shot that knocked out Joyce at the weekend? Could any of them two took that shot better?
No.
There you go. You know, all this crap about, you know, I listened to Fratch and Groves yesterday, and I actually have to totally disagree with everything that Fratch and Groves said. I don't think it's his punch resistance. Everyone's talking about, yeah, his punch resistance is gone and this and that. Well, everybody's punch resistance kind of wanes a bit as their career goes on. You know, you've got elite level sparring, that takes it out of you. Elite level amateur, that's going to take it out of you. And on the night itself. So possibly a small percentage, but I think that shot that hit Joyce isn't to do with his punch resistance being gone. I just think it's the fact that Zhang is an absolutely massive puncher, and that shot would have knocked out Joshua, and it would have knocked out Fury.
Is there any bone density remainers left in the Joyce camp?
I listen, Russell. Joyce could come out in 6 months' time and look like he did a year ago, because he's probably had rest. You look at that injury in his eye the last time. I don't know the extent of the injury. You know, where Daniel Dubois was meant to have, you know, a broken eye socket and retina damage. Did he? I don't know about that. But you look at Joyce's eye in that first fight against Zhang. Surely get into that camp so quickly. You know, taking damage in that side. It didn't look like his punch resistance had gone. It just looked like he probably hasn't got over that last fight, that last defeat. You know, that was a really, really bad injury. And He just looked like a fighter that didn't want to get hit in that side of the face, and understandably so. But for everyone to come out and say his punch resistance is gone is utter nonsense. You know, look at the shot he took from the fighter he took it from. I think that says it all.
How many rounds did he do it first time with Zhang? Were it 9 or 8?
It was later rounds, a lot of rounds.
So they've
But
basically they've not completed a 12-round fight in the 2 fights. He's not done 36 minutes with Zhang, and it looks like he could be on scrap heap.
it's yeah, and I don't see why, because there's a lot of fights. There's fights out there for him. You know, he could come back. He could come back and at least six to 10 months time have another fight. You know, somebody to just get him back in. Then there's the Dubois fight. That still is a big fight, Russell. That still is
Why are
a big.
people saying? Why are people saying that he's washed up? But yeah, Del Boy's 40, so Del Boy's 2 year older, and he's got more miles on the clock. But they're on about wheeling him out in another big fight in New Year.
Because they don't know what they're talking about, Russell, and they don't know boxing. Uh, you look at Eddie Hearn come out during the week and said it's not safe for Joyce to fight, and he shouldn't be fighting. But look at the amount that look at Derek Chisora's last performance.
Yeah.
Look at his last 5 performances. You know, how can you say that about Joe Joyce, but not say that about Derek Chisora?
Yeah, you could do, yeah. Derek's calling Zhang out.
Well, hope he gets it. Hope he gets it.
He'll get put on Button Moon.
Hope he gets it.
Dear.
Yeah.
Why?
Hope he gets it. Oh, we'll see what happens to him in that fight. So we'll see. You know,
He'll get lit up.
You know, if he wants it, I hope he gets it. If he really wants it, I hope he gets it, because I think everybody wants to shut their mouths, you know, and stop criticizing a guy that has done everything the right way. British, Commonwealth, European, fought absolutely everybody, everywhere, and now they're throwing him under the bus because he got knocked out by an absolutely monster puncher and Zhang.
Sam
I
Jones
hope
has been quiet since the fight, and he's not running around with his bone density spreadsheets, is he?
he's definitely not. Well, he's a lot to answer for. You know, he was the one that was managing him at the time when he was #1 rated.
Worry.
You know, with the WBO.
Oh, what's it? Adam Morley, what's he manager, or was it Sam?
It was Sam before Adam Morley. Adam Morley's the manager now.
All right, Sam the Piper's son stole a pig and away he ran. Pop, pop,
You know
bang.
what? They're all talking about his head movement, and they're all talking about him being
What
slow.
head movement? What about the
That
shoulder roll he was trying to do? He tried to put Archie Moore and Bricktop out of business.
you know, that's the style he's always had. You know, you even go back and you look at the Takam fight, he got hit quite a lot in that fight. He even got caught against Christian Hammer in that fight, and he always found a way to come back. But when you're in with somebody as big a puncher as Zhang, you know, it's really hard to be able to expect to withstand that type of punching power. And I stand over it right now. I think Usyk gets hit with that shot, if Fury gets hit with that shot, if AJ gets hit with that shot, if Jared Anderson gets hit with that shot, they're all going to get put in Button Moon. Listen, that guy is a massive puncher. Massive puncher.
So, yeah. What did you think to the aftermath of it all, Kent? You know, all the people that turned on Juggernaut Joe. What did you make of all that, Kent?
They're all scumbags, to be honest with you. They're a disgrace. You know, 1 minute they're hugging him and calling him the Juggernaut, and this guy is, you know, he's great, and he's great for boxing, and he's a great guy. And
You know, it
I'm
reminded me of this Joe Joyce noise we've had since he went pro. All this noise reminded me of like that film with Michael Myers, you know, Halloween. it were kind of like the vibe we got from Audley, then David Price, then Joshua and all that, and Dubai. We're kind of like that aura, wasn't it? All this bone density stuff's done me head in, and 5 times stronger than your average man, and all this. They were building up into some like super dude, weren't they?
Well, they do that with every fighter, Russell. They do that. They do that with every heavyweight. You know,
Yeah,
the
but
heavyweight.
bone density. I've never heard all this bone density stuff. It's the biggest load of hogwash I've ever heard in my life. It's like something John Fury had invented, isn't it? Pop, pop, bang, kid. Pop, pop, bang. 200 kilo deadlifts with me cock.
You know, it's
Bang.
the thing that annoys me the most that it's he's getting all this praise and they're talking about him being this great person and great guy and he's a great athlete and you know he's the juggernaut in this and we want Joyce to fight for a world title. Then he gets knocked out. Then everybody's absolutely smashing him and throwing him under the bus. And it's like a complete polar opposite of what they were saying an hour before. And I just think it's wrong. And I don't like it. I don't like how they could just throw someone on the scrap heap after a loss. You know, people calling for him to retire and his career's over. And well, that's like turning around saying, yeah, to Lennox Lewis, right, Lennox, you get knocked out by Oliver McCall. You've no punch resistance. Your legs were gone. It's time you retire.
Yeah, it's a tough one. What do you make of all that EIS carry on and you know Team GB, Audley, Price, Joshua, Joyce, Dubois, Big Freeze? Do you think there's any one of them can think on the feet in ring when they get clipped?
I think it's one of these things where they fall into comfort. You know, when you're in EIS, you've comfort. You've that comfort blanket of EIS. You've got funding as well. So
Well,
you've
you've
got a
got 5
wage.
medalists there, Kent, out of 6. Dubois obviously didn't go to Olympics, did he? Others went to Olympics, but you've got 5 medalists out of 6 there, dating back nearly 24 years. And
Yeah, well,
none of them have made any big splashes in pros, have they, really? Apart from Joshua.
so what happens is as I said there, it's you've got that privilege of having that. You've got that comfort blanket of being paid. And basically what you're there to do is you're there to tick the box for them. You're a KPI for them. And that keeps people on a job. And you know, they just have to get multinations, Europeans, they have to get to a certain level where they get paid for them once they get paid. And what you have there is it's kind of like they've got that protection of EIS, they've got you know sparring, you know, certain type of way. They can dictate who they're sparring, who they can bring in, when they train, when they don't train, and when they turn pro. It's kind of like everything isn't as ready made for them. You know, they can't really dictate as much, and they kind of bring that privilege into the pros. You know, they kind of bring that protection into the pros. Where you look at Fraser Clark, you know, Fraser Clark should have been fighting for a British title within 3 fights, a European title within 5 fights, and challenging for a world title, and looking to challenge for a world title with with at least 10 fights. You know, off the back of having that extensive amateur career and all that privilege up in EIS. And what's happening there is when a heavyweight turns pro, I for the life of me I can't understand how an Olympic medalist has to be built up with 15 bin men, 15 window cleaners, and 10 taxi drivers before they even fight for. You look at even Johnny Fisher. Johnny Fisher, you know, at the minute is actually an area champion, and that's a guy that really had no real amateur experience. But
Yeah.
he's further on now than Fraser Clark.
Who, Elmer Fudd?
Yeah, yeah.
Big Elmer with his Chinese takeaway, him and his old man.
Yeah, yeah. He's actually an area champion. He's actually fought for a belt.
You put
As
him
some,
in a fight against Joyce now, or the bar, wouldn't you, that Fisher?
I wouldn't say that, but he's going. I would put him in with. You know who I would put him in with right
What
now?
about for sparring?
I would put him in right now with Fraser Clark.
Oh, Johnny Fisher.
Yeah.
Why? Because they're both about 8, 9, and 0 or something.
Well, I think it would be. I think Johnny Fisher would actually come to fight. He would
But
be
Johnny
prepared.
Fisher's got 10 year on him, hasn't
Yeah. And Fraser Clark has shown absolutely nothing. He's showing absolutely no desire in the ring whatsoever, and looks like he doesn't even want to be there. He's turned pro right away. He's been made a he's kind of been made a boxing celebrity without actually being a boxer. As he's turned pro with Sky, he's getting all this media work. He just doesn't look interested in actual fighting. I would put Johnny Fisher in right now with Fraser Clark. What has Fraser Clark shown as a professional fighter right now that would deter you from putting him in with Johnny Fisher?
What deters me? Well, I don't think he's had enough ring time, has he? Really, Fraser Clark to be to be rolling dice just yet. He's only had 8 fights, hasn't he?
But no, he's had an elite amateur career. He's
Well,
a
yeah, I
bronze medal.
suppose. Yeah,
He's a
Olympic
he's a
bronze.
bronze he's a bronze medalist. He get paid to be a boxer at the IS. That was his job. He's sparring. You're getting world class sparring when you want it. You're fighting world class guys in competition. You're in that vacuum of being a world class amateur and fighting at that level. Why should you need that amount of fights to fight anybody? Should be doing it right away.
Yeah, yeah, it's a bit of a mess in it. What do you think to that mole on Zhang's face? It's some current, that, isn't it?
I didn't actually notice, to be honest with you.
Big giant mole next to his nose.
Well, I'll tell you what, you would put him in with any of the top three now, wouldn't you?
Who's your top 5, Kent, now at heavyweight?
I would go Usyk,
Yeah.
Zhang.
Zhang, number 2.
Well, he's fighting. He's fighting.
Yeah. Yeah, go out. Who else?
And it would have it between number three would be tied. I would have Fury and AJ at number three.
Kent. What? How was Big Meech all of a sudden gone up your charts to number 3, mate, from like number 8 last week?
Because he's fighting. He's fighting fighters. He's trying to be active. Fury's last 2 fights, the level of opposition that AJ has fought in his last 2 fights is the exact same level as the opposition as Tyson Fury has fought his last 2 fights. Plus, AJ's actually fought Usyk twice.
What do you think to Bricktop coming out saying, we bring them back, we'll bring in the bar back, we'll bring Joyce back, we bring fighters back. We brought Tyson Fury back out at cold. What do you think? Do you think it might be just the bar and Joyce might already be damaged? Kent?
Well, I actually agree with Warren in some respects. Well, the respect was that he come back. Yes, they brought him back, but the reason they brought him back was because there's no way that Tyson Fury would come back with Eddie Hearn. So that was the reason they got that contract and they got the promotional rights to Tyson Fury. He was never going to go back to no, there was nobody for him to go back to. He had left Mick Hennessy. So he had Wasserman at that time, I don't even think had a TV deal. And that would have left Frank Warren, who had that at the time, really good deal at BT. What do I think about? I personally don't think that after one loss, two losses, your career is over and you don't fight again. That is not how I see it. I see Dubois is not going to get a rematch with Usyk. He possibly could get a fight down the line with maybe the winner of Big Pharmacy Miller and Manuel Char for that crappy WBA belt. Don't be surprised and 10 months down the line that Dubois and Joe Joyce are fighting for that WBA belt again
You
down the line.
reckon?
But yeah, yeah, yeah.
Char
Don't be.
seems to have been hanging around that belt or had some legal claim to that belt since I was wearing a nappy age 5.
Oh, it's a dreadful belt.
Char's in love with regular belt, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, he failed a steroid test.
Another one.
Basic. No, he failed a steroid test
Who
before.
did?
Char.
So he's a gearhead.
So Char, what the story is basically he had been inactive for like 3 years, and he failed a steroid test, and the WBA stripped him of that inferior belt, and basically he sued them. He was like legal. There was legal act. Don't know if he sued them, but there was legal ramifications. And basically, how it went was that this is with the B sample. He had no representation when the B sample was opened, and in the rules and jurisdiction that you have to be with, you have to have a representative from your team at the opening of the B sample, and he didn't, and that's how he was reinstated.
Never.
Well, that's what went on there. So that's how he's got that belt back. It's a terrible belt. It means absolutely nothing in boxing. You know, you can have Manuel Char and Big Pharmacy Miller. You know, two of them haven't had a fight of note the last 5 years, and now they're fighting for that belt. It's just pure trash.
Yeah, it is. What do you make of Eddie coming out yesterday with begging bowl? He's begging for Zhang and Big Meech in China. He wants to work with Queensbury.
He's dreaming. He is absolutely. You know what it's like. He's went to bed and he's in a dream world. He's he's in Peter Pan, Cloud Cuckoo Land. To be honest with you,
When you look at the situation, though, Ken, right, we've got Bricktop he's got Zhang in position with WBO, so he's got one hand on not on that fight. He's got Tyson Fury with WBC parked up, so he's got two hands on that belt. And he's got Dubois chipping away at the WBA, trying to get an hand on regular belt, which is probably what will happen. It'll be Dubois versus Char and that other dude winner, won't it? Miller.
it's genius from Frank Warren. The night.
Yeah, and we've got Eddie there with Joshua, who's out at circle, not even got a ranking we're talking about. He's not in an eliminator, no belt. And who's other heavyweight? Dylan White. Well, and Chisora. Well, we know their story, don't we? So Eddie's, he can mask over all this bravado. He's on back foot, isn't he?
Massively. Now you go back up, you park up again, you go in the rewind. 2 years ago, Zhang was a DAZN fighter. Zhang was on DAZN shows, and
Yeah.
look where he is now. And it's one of them things where it was really smart from they always talk about the Joe Joyce and Zhang fight was a big gamble. It was actually the right thing to do.
How were it a gamble? Joe
No,
Jones is 38 years of age and he's just been beat, right? And he's thinking in his head, right, I'm 38 here. If I don't take this rematch, I'm at the bottom of the queue. But if I take this rematch, I roll the dice and I win, I'm back in position. So he had no choice. It's like Tyson Fury. Everybody keeps emailing me saying, you've got to give Tyson credit for going for Germany. Yeah, I gave him credit, but he had no choice. It would go to Germany or you're not fighting Vladimir. He had no choice. Joyce had no choice. It's what they call being backed into a corner.
And I said this before in the video. I said the loss actually enhanced his career, and I'll explain that.
Go
So
on, Ken.
he fought Zhang, right? And at the time, Joshua's parked up, Fury's parked up, Usyk's parked up, and there's nothing really happening. There's no traffic in the heavyweight division whatsoever. Nothing. There's no traffic at all. So where does that leave him? That would have left him parked up, fighting the likes of Christian Hammer. Waste of time, not going anywhere with his career. So he fights Zhang, okay? Really, really big punching heavyweight, a really dangerous fighter, and he gets beat. So what happens after he gets beat? It actually gives him, it actually enhances his career. It gives him something to go forward for.
You mean
Where
people all want to fight him now?
And what I mean by that is that actual first defeat made him more relevant in the heavyweight division because he had that rematch, and that was a big rematch, and it was a fight that people wanted to see again against two active top 10 heavyweights. Where all the rest of them, Tyson Fury is fighting the likes of Dillian White, Derek Chisora, who aren't really even top 15 guys. You've got Anthony Joshua fighting the likes of Franklin and Hellenius. They're not even top 15 guys as well. And you've got Zhang and Joyce fighting each other, who are credible top 10 guys.
What's that noise on your microphone, Ken? It's like a picking sound.
It's just, I don't know what it is.
Is your mouth too close to the microphone?
I don't know.
All right then. So I hope you're sitting down for this next question, Ken, because I know how angry you get with questions like this. Right, Eddie Hills has come out and he's saying they'll take that fight in a heartbeat in China, right? And he's got the begging ball out now. I know I just asked you this, but what do you really think about Eddie's brass neck on him doing that? It's begging bowl out job, isn't it?
It's stupidity. Anybody that knows anything about boxing knows that's impossible and that's not going to happen. Why would you even say that? Why would you even ask for that, knowing that at one time you had that fighter on your platform boxing regularly, and you let him go to fight on a rival network and possibly sign a deal that would have had options on him? So it's Eddie's fault. It's Eddie's just trying to mask the fact that he let Zhang go and fight on another platform and get signed up by another promoter, instead of just turning around and saying, yeah, I made a big mistake, I let him go, now he's signed under Queensberry and he'll never be on one of our platforms or our shows ever again. He's just masking it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mess, isn't it, Ken? Do you see Joshua fighting Zhang in UK?
No chance.
No.
He get put on button moon. No way. No way would AJ fight Zhang now. You know, there's no chance of that. Why would Frank Warren let one of his fighters go in as the B side against a guy now who can't fill out an arena?
Yeah, it's a bit of a tough one, isn't it? Where does it leave Wilder all this though?
Doesn't really leave Wilder anywhere. Wilder has been nowhere for over a year. Wilder's just sitting back and waiting for a big payday.
What about this Dr. Usman? Do you think he's going to be working with Fury? Because he's like this nutrition guy, isn't he? Fury were all over his profile. Do you think he might get the nod to work with Joyce?
I don't think Joyce needs to bring out anybody at all. I think Joyce just got hit with a guy who's a massive puncher. I think the rematch was too quick.
Yeah.
You know, way too quick. I think he needed a bit of time to let himself let his injury heal.
Do you think it were a Tony Thompson, David Price job?
It echoes that right away. It really does, and it's kind of slightly different in the fact that David Price was knocked out really badly in the first fight. It wasn't like he was coming in with that bad injury from the first fight. So yes, it does echo it does, but let's not forget, Tony Thompson failed a drug test, in his career as well.
Yeah. Tony Thompson. Yeah. Well, they rolled dice with him, didn't they, Maloney? And I think that they rolled the dice with Joyce last night, wanted to get back at mixed spot money, not thinking of the fighter's health and future. But he's at that age where they had to roll dice, isn't he? 38.
I think they had to take the. I think to keep himself credible in the heavyweight division, that they had to take those two fights. Joe Joyce has never ducked a fight against anyone. And as I say, that first fight and that first fight against Zhang actually gave him more purpose in the heavyweight division because he had that rematch to go in. He had that rematch. That was a really, really good fight. What would you want him fighting? The likes of Marius Vac and the Christine Hammers and the Kevin Johnsons of the world? No, that fight actually enhanced that first loss actually enhanced his status in the heavyweight division because it made him relevant. It gave him a purpose in the division.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's giving him summer, hasn't it, mate? It's giving him summer. All right, then, Ken, you want to go on to part 2, pal?
Yeah.
Cheers, mate. Join us in part 2. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment. Pop, pop, bang. Some interesting chat from Kent today. Going deep, balls deep.